I need to wrap up what I've started, but before I start making this video, I need a cup of coffee. Ooh. In my previous 2 videos on Filmstro, the first one I showed you Filmstro as a standalone piece of software, and in the second one I showed you how I've used it for my videos and showed you some examples of the music. But today I'm going to show you how I use it in my preferred method of using Filmstro as a plugin for Final Cut Pro. I imagine the same thing will apply itself to Premiere Pro.
Let us make beautiful music together.
When I'm making a video on Final Cut Pro and I know that I'm going to be using Filmstro, I always have the Filmstro software open as well as Final Cut Pro because I find it's a lot easier to find the music and scroll through and just have a play, look at the different settings like I showed you in the previous video, and just find the sort of music that I'm looking for that will suit my video. Let's not mess about, let's get straight into Final Cut Pro. For the purposes of today's video, I've got some old footage that I used when I first got my Mavic Air. Now when you get the plugin for Filmstro, it does come with these movie placeholders. So if I go down here, it's got a folder and they break it down. You've got a 1 minute, 3 minute and a 10 minute holder for your music. So what we need to do is now place one of these in there, and as 1 minute's too short, we'll put the 3 minute in there and drag it in. We know it's not going to be that long, so we can cut it later on, that's no problem. Now I need to tell it what audio I'm going to put in it. So I go over to my effects and I go down to the bottom, and there's this little Filmstro thing that we need to drag across and place it in there. That's now telling it I'm going to be using Filmstro. The next thing we want to do is add our music. I've already had a play on the Filmstro standalone piece of software, so I know what piece of music I'm going to use, and as always I'm going to be overly dramatic and use something that's probably not really appropriate for this video. But I'm going to use it anyway because I like it. So what we need to do now is come up to our inspector, and we need to hit this little icon here that looks like a calculator really, and this brings up the Filmstro box. And what I will do is type in for the track that I know that I'm going to use, which is Parbat. Unusual name that. Filmstro works on loops, so it will just keep on playing the music over and over and over, and you can adjust it as it goes, but they also produce end pieces of music which you can add on to the end or use it on its own so that you have a finite piece of music, which is great. I use that quite a lot. So we know now that that's in there. We now need to open up our parameters, and this shows those sliders that I showed you in my first video, and they work in exactly the same way. But what this doesn't do, that the standalone piece of software does, is I can't record in real time, so I have to set it up as I go. So what I would recommend you doing is, if you know what piece of music you're going to use, have a play with it in the Filmstro app before coming into Final Cut Pro. Then you'll know how you'll want to use it. For the purposes of this video, again, what I'm going to do is ramp it up gradually and then ramp it right down at the end. So let's go ahead and do that. We can play around with the music because we haven't put any keyframes in it at the moment. So what we'll do is let it play, and I apologise because the sound, I haven't got an external audio to capture this, so it's going to have to come through my normal microphone. Not ideal, but that's what we're working with. So let's play it, and we'll have a play with the sliders as it plays so we can hear what each one is doing. So that's momentum. And this is depth. And that's power. And I mentioned in isolation, they sound quite weird. You can use them in isolation, but when you start using them together, they sound different because they rely on what the other settings are. Not for all tracks, but for most of them, they do. So let's do another play and play that through again. And we'll move more than one this time. So let's bring the power up. And let's bring the momentum up. So the drums and stuff have come in now. Let's drag this over to the start, and I'm going to add some keyframes in. for where I want it to start. So, and this is going to be a little bit rough, so I'm going to add a keyframe in for each of the parameters, and we're going to let it play. So there, I think I'm going to start bringing in the depth at this point. And in order to see what I'm doing, I need to expand the audio. So you right click and click show the audio animation. And what this allows me to do is where I've got keyframes, I can add more keyframes and I'll be able to see them. So we can see the depth there. And if I bring it across a little bit further, turn up the slider, it'll automatically, because we're telling it to add keyframes, now wherever I move the pointer and I adjust one of the parameters, it'll automatically put in a keyframe. So that's easy. So my depth is going up there. Let's listen back at that. Let's drag this back a little bit. So that's where I want the power to come in. So let's go back. We'll add in one for the power there at the same point. So we'll make it a little bit more powerful at the same time. So I think what I want to do is start increasing from about this point. We'll start bringing the momentum up to about that point. We don't have to be exact for the purposes of this tutorial. We'll bring it up to about 50%. What we're going to do is add some more keyframes in here. That's like a setting point, and then we'll start ramping up the power to about there. Right, and at that point then, I want to start bringing in the drums. Just before it gets blurred, I'll add in a keyframe for the momentum. A little bit later on, we'll bring that right up. So let's have a look and see what that sounds like now. So that's really good now. It's come in, the drums, it's all dramatic. Ben's moving, the drone's tracking. It's overly dramatic, but it's working as I wanted. So let's add some key markers at this final point. Oh, I've done it in the wrong place. Undo. Move that back to there. Add the keyframes in. And then what we're going to do is just bring them all down very gradually. And see what that sounds like. I am rushing because this is a tutorial. Ordinarily it'd take me a little bit longer to do this. So let's just have a quick listen to that. That will do. I'm going to chop it off there because we don't want that bit. I'll let the music fade at that point. So you can adjust the volume in Filmstro like you can with any other piece of audio. If you want to go back and have a look at your sliders in a bit more detail underneath your video, what you can do is select any one of them. So just for example, we'll look at momentum, and it brings up the momentum track. And if I click this icon here, you can see this looks very similar to what we had in the standalone piece of software. And I can look at this, I can listen to the music, look at the video, and adjust it all together by adjusting these points. I can either move them left or right, and I can move them up or down. So that's the tweaking bit. So let's go ahead and finish this and watch the final version. We've recorded this video using Parbat, but if I wanted to change the music, I could go up to the inspector and change the piece of music. All of my keyframes and points will stay in place, but the music will change. So that's a really good thing to know. It won't wipe everything out. That was a really quick overview of Filmstro as a plugin, and I hope it made sense. If you are interested in this and there's anything that you don't understand, please put a comment below and I'll get back to you, and I can always make another video if there's something that I've missed or that you don't fully understand. I think it's a brilliant product and I use it quite a lot, and I love the variety. I love the different types of music. They're really high quality professional pieces of music. I'm done. I'm going to go and have another cup of coffee and maybe a bite to eat. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you on the next one.